the pivot that is formed on the next day and the pivot from the day before. I want to predict the market trend, but I didn't get a good result. What was your problem? I don't. Well, I wanted to predict the market trend based on the pivot from the next day. If it's higher or lower than the pivot from the next, it didn't happen. The For example, in this pivot, what chart were you looking on? I screenshotted it. I will send you the screenshot. All right. This is NZD. Let me. Australia on January 15th. Pound January 15th. Gold January 15th. 6 ones. I think 2 or 3 of them are enough. Excuse me. I'm sorry that I sent you this. You can delete it later. It's okay. Okay, so these were the pivots, and I screenshotted this. And I woke up at 1 last night to check these. Okay, so this is the Australia chart. Yes. So in this chart, let me show you the chart. The pivot, what is the pivot point? It's 0.7174. The last pivot is our criteria. It was below today's pivot because today's pivot is a little bit higher. Today's pivot is 0.7212. So this pivot has been formed in a higher level, today's pivot. Okay? So I thought that if this pivot is higher, the price is going to go up as well, but apparently it comes lower. You see these 3 lines here in the photo that you sent me? You see them? These 3 lines here. The lines I have here, and look at my chart, these 3 lines have been updated to a lower point. You see the last pivot is 0.71283, but yours is 0.171383, and the second one is 0.71555, but yours is a little bit higher. Let me see if I've got it right. You see, first of all, they don't, they're not, they're not in sync. What does that mean? It means that the distance, you see, I didn't photograph that. and I just memorize it. The pivot and an S1 and S2 and R1 and R2 had moved closer together, but R3 hadn't changed much. But in the chart that we have before us, this is the Australia chart. It's for today, this chart, because it doesn't change in one day. And this is for January 15th. And this pivot here is lower than today's pivot, right? Yesterday's pivot. Yesterday's pivot today's pivot is higher than yesterday's pivot. Okay, so today's is higher than the other one. Now that it's higher, it means that the price is going to go higher, right? No, you see, I told you something, that these three lines here, do you see them? You have three lines in the top and three lines in the bottom. In today's chart, it hasn't really changed much. Can you see it? They're not very different. This is a neutral trend. What uh what lines haven't been broken? These three here, right? Because they're empty. It has started from the top and it has declined to the downside. You see, in yesterday's chart, the the lines that are in the top, they have been broken. And I told you this, that if these three lines haven't been broken and there's not a tide in them, it means that the trend has is going to break these three here, the three lines that are in the bottom. You see, this is today's chart. This is today's chart. We said that the third pivot is rarely broken because the second pivot is very strong. And this third line is on the bottom and it has broken the second line here, but in your photo the second line hasn't been broken, but today it has. You see, generally one method is that the lines have to move further than each other. The second one is that you need to see which lines haven't been broken. Are they the resistance line or the support lines? In your photo, the support lines haven't been broken. And the second method is that if the third pivot is broken, it means that the price is going to come down in a great deal, or vice versa. Now, in your chart, your trend has been neutral, and the changes have been in the tides. So we go to the next method, the second method. What lines haven't been touched? The bottom lines here. But it was broken today. Let me look at your second photo. So this is CHF chart. This is for yesterday, right? Yes. Okay, so it was up to the price 1.26719. and my third pivot was broken. It was a weekly pivot that I stopped it. You see this? This is a weekly pivot. And in today's chart, the lines have been updated from the top. You see the top lines haven't been broken. So the lines, the top lines have been updated to a higher level. So your pound chart is an uptrend, and it will come and touch the top lines. So the next photo. Okay, so this is Canada dollar in this chart. I think it's more clear on H1. Okay, so the Canada chart is also neutral, but the lines have been updated from 0.33649 and 1.33641, and the other one is 1.33219 and 1.33278, and also in here we have 1.32296 updated to 1.33024. So it has been updated, the top lines have been updated to the top, but your chart is neutral. So it's going to go upward, right? Yes, but today there has been fluctuations in the pivots. You see R1 to S1, and here S1 to R1, also in here R1 to S1 here. It's a neutral trend, but the top line have been updated. Or in your franc, you see, is this a new screenshot? Yeah, I think it is. Is it from yesterday? Yes. All of the photos are screenshots from yesterday. And I think yesterday the pivot was on about 0.98. Let me check it again. Right now the pivots have been updated, but yesterday your R3 line had been broken too. The yesterday pivot was 0.98179, but now it's 91570. It has been updated. Yes, so yesterday. No, you see, this is yesterday's screenshot. Your R1 has been broken, and also today it has updated upward. It means that you're gonna have an ascending trend. But now the price in both weekly and daily shows that the elasticity is going to be upward, and this pivot is going to break. It's going to be ascending up to this zone, R2. If it breaks R2 as well, it will reach R3. I will teach you this in the daily pivots as well, in weekly pivots. Excuse me. In the Canada dollar and JPY, when I put the indicator It is, it has a trend, but it's very compressed.
کانادا بره ژاپن.
Let me
خب
check.
بعضی ارزها هستش که
Yeah, in
حالت
some currency
یک
pairs,
پیوت کنار هم داره، یه
the
حالت
pivots are
داره.
very close together.
بعد
So in CAD JPY.
خب
Okay. You seeing this? Why is it like this? How is it?
فشرده.
Please, Mr. Sadeghi,
آره اسیه
please
بزرگی میبینی.
zoom out and look at it from
نمیاد دیگه،
H1
روندشون هم رو به
perspective.
بالایی.
You see your
خب این
trend is
افتاده.
ascending.
بعد قیمت پیوت آر1 و در حال شکست هست، ولی جلوش به پیوت هفتگی رو
The
داره.
R1 is on a breakout.
جان
Excuse me, how did you do this?
چی باز شد؟
What do you mean? What did you do that the page was like extended? When I open the pages, the
بعد شما
pivots
فکر
are not
کنید یک ساعته رو
extended
نگاش کنید. شما
because
تایمتون
you
رو
need to
عوض
look at
میکنید،
it
چارت باز
in an
میشه.
hourly
خب
time frame.
دو دفعه جاش تکون نمیخوره.
Because when you extend it, the pivots don't
جان
change, the chart changes. I told you Canada dollar and JPY. I sent you
فیبوناچی آقای
the
صادقی.
photo. Did you get it, Mr. Sadeghi? Yes. So it's one zero
کانادا میگه
point
من نیستش.
81,540.
نه این کانادا نیست. نه خب من کانادا به ین رو میخوام
I
پیدا
want to
کنم.
find your CADJPY. The last one is CADJPY.
خب
Okay. I wanted to show you the pivot. Today's pivot is higher.
امروز آپدیت شده افتاده بالا دیگه. آره
Today's pivot is higher,
روندم
yes.
رفته بالا دیگه احتمالا.
Because there has been an
آره
uptrend.
دیدم رفته بالا.
Yes.
بعد خطوط هم آپدیت شده به سمت بالا افتاده.
The
بعد
lines have been
این خطوط
updated
بالا هم لمس
to the
کرده.
top part.
وقتی خطوط بالا
And
لمس میشه به
the
صورت
top lines haven't
صورت
been
موو
touched.
بالایی در
So
بالا
this
رو
means
پیوت
that
آر1 رو
there's an
شکسته.
ascending signal.
ولی
And
هفتگی رو
R1 has
نمیبینه.
been
پس اگه
broken.
هفتگی رو باز بکنه
But
قیمتتون تا بازار
in
راحت میره
weekly,
بالا.
there's a it
هفتگی
stop
بعدی
it stops it in weekly time frame. I'm not sure. CADJPY is in
چطور داری
today's
اسکلت میشه؟
chart. There's a problem. What problem? You see, in H4,
میره
the
بالا.
trend is neutral, so I'm not sure if it's going to
روندشون رو
go up
بالایی
or
دیگه.
down.
حالا این موارد
It's
که
an
من میگم
upward
میره
movement. It's going
بالا
to
در
go
واقع
up.
کندلستیکی هن.
You see,
بر اساس
this is a
ابزاری که
candlestick
بهتون
matter. You need
گفتم،
to
خب
learn that
الان طبق این
first.
ابزار شما
But
بخوای بگیریش واقعا این
based on the
ابزار
things
نمیره
that
تا
I
بالا
taught
دیگه.
you,
خطوط میگه آپدیت
you see
نشده،
that
بعد
it's
به
going
سمت
to be
بالا میره
ascending because the
نیفتاده.
lines haven't been
بعد این دو
updated.
تا خط زده
And
نشدن، این دو
these
تا خط
three
بعدی هم
lines
زده
haven't been
نشده، جاش
touched.
خالیه دیگه، نشان دهنده
And you
زدن.
see, there's
فقط
nothing in
تا که
here, so it
فیبوناچی
means
هم
that
شما
they're going
رد
to be touched.
بکنید
And even if
میره
you
همون
draw
بالا.
Fibonacci here,
قیمت من دقیقا تو 61 که من
you
سود
see that the
مبارزه یک
61
آر3
level is
در واقع تو معدوده آر4
overlapping the R3.
بله
So
شما
you're
وقتی
looking
میخواید
at it in the daily time
مثبت
frame,
ترین رو
right?
ببرین بالا.
Yes. When you don't see it in a short-term time
خواستید
frame,
پایینش رو
you
ببرین
need to
بالاتر، فیبوناچی راحت‌تر
increase the
استفاده
time
کنید.
frame.
فیبوناچی کلش هم میره.
This is the
بعدی
overall
من آر3 بود.
Fibonacci. The 50 level is on R3. So if you want to put a take profit here, you put it on R2
من بذارم اینجا.
or not. I put it right here on R3.
جان
Please, please zoom in a little.
مهد سودم اینجا میذارم.
I
چک
will put it here
550 هست.
because this is
بعد تا
Fibonacci level
من پیوت
50
ندارم.
and I
یعنی
don't
این
even have any
قیمت
pivots
اینو
here.
میذارم، قیمت هم میذارم راحت میاد بالا.
And
چرا
I
بین
know
این
the pivots,
انداخته
the
شده،
price is going to go up.
اینجا خطوط
And
انداخته
it's true
شده،
that
ولی
there are
من
these
دستم
lines
اینجا
here,
در
but
بلند
in
مدت
midterm
اینجا
and
قرار
long-term
میگیره.
trend, I know that the
وقتی
trend
که
is
دیگه تا
going to
اینجا میاد
come up
بالا
to
شروع
here.
میشه بشه. چرا بخواد بین این
So
ببنده؟
when it's going to happen, there's no reason for me to
درسته
close down
پیوت
the trend,
افتاده،
the
ولی بر
trade.
اساس اصول کندلستیک این
Based
پیوت ها
on
شکسته.
candlestick
تو
rules,
بر فرار
these
کندلستیک ها
pivots are
نمیتونی
going
بذاری
to
انقدر
break,
سمتریک
but you
بشینه.
don't know about that
راحت
yet,
هم
and I
میبازه.
have
چون
to
اول اینکه
teach
من
you later
کندلستیک سیگنال افزایش
about
داده
candlesticks.
که امروز
You
هم
see,
کلا
based
رفت
on
بالا، ولی
candlesticks,
امروز واقعا
I
ایستگاه
had an
بولشه.
ascending
فردا دارم
signal
به سمت
here.
بالایی. وقتی بره بالا میدونم اینجا رو
So when
قطعی،
it's going to go up,
یعنی
I
از
know
چهار
that
تا
it's going to
ممیز
break
تا
this
62 رو
this line.
میزنه. و چون اینجا تا اینجا من فعلا پیوتی توی این
And because I
محدوده
don't have any pivots
نمیگیرم،
here,
که این پیوت که باز بشه پیوتی تا این محدوده ها نیست.
you see
و
there are
راحت
no
به سمت بالا
pivots
برام
in
حرکت
here. So it means that the price is going to go up to that zone.
شما الان فیبوناچی هم زدید دیگه.
Have you
ببینید
tried
من
Fibonacci
اینجا
method as
فیبوناچی
well? You
داشتم،
see here I
بعد
drew the
خط
Fibonacci
ترند داشتم،
method and I also have the trend line method.
خط ترند دارم، فیبوناچی دارم،
I have both of
دو تا
these
قوانین پیوتی
and I
دارم.
know and
همه
also
چیز
the
شماها
pivots
بگیرم میدونم این
rules.
قطعی روندم تا اینجا بالا میشه.
So I based on all of these methods I know that the trend is going to go up to here. So the weekly pivot
آره
is
بشکنه،
about
بشکنش که میره
to
هفته دو رو بزنه.
is about to break, right? Yes.
جان
Excuse me. In weekly pivot. Go on, Miss Sharifi. No, you go on. I said that in weekly pivot, we can buy up to
بله
R2
آردو
level,
میشه
right?
پایه بگیری تا
Yes,
آر
R2
دو
level and
دوی
also
هفته
the
جلوش.
second weekly pivot. And the circumstances that it breaks R2 level, right? It will,
ببینید
because
وقتی
you
که
see,
ببینید پیوت
you
های
see that the
هفتگی
weekly
بیشتر
pivots
از
are more
روزانه دیگه.
powerful than the
وقتی که
daily ones, right?
هفتگی اینجا
When
نگاه
the
کنید،
weekly pivot is here, you see, let me
ببینید
show you.
آر یک افتاده
When it's
شکسته، آر
here,
یک هفتگی هم داره میشکنه.
the
همین آر یک
weekly
هفتگی
R1
بشکنه.
is
مثلا
going
وقتی
to
که
break.
پیوت هفتگی بخوایم
If
بسنجیم این تا
we're
اینجا میاد.
analyzing it
ولی
based on
اگه
the
بخوایم بر اساس
weekly
روزانه
pivot,
بگیریمش
is
میتونیم
going
بر
to
اساس
come up to
روزانه
here.
بگیریم که
But if
اینجا
we're
میذاریم تا
doing
اینجا میخواد
assessing it
برمیگرده، تا
based
اینجا
on
از
the
اینجا دوباره میاد
daily
بالا هفتگی
pivot,
میکنه.
it's going to come up to
میتونید
here.
این رفت و برگشت رو مثلا
But
خرید و
in
فروشی کنید.
this back and forth movements, you can buy and sell. Okay, so I'm starting to understand what my problem
این
was.
مد
Thank
خانم
you so
اسمانی شما
much. Mr. Sadegh, what about you? No. Um, weekly pivots complete the daily pivot so you can understand the market better. And at the end, when we learn about candlesticks, we
برعکسش
will
بکنم
get
چون
all of
نمیدونید یه
these
خورده
better.
پیچیده است.
Yes, because you don't know about candlesticks, this is a little bit complex for you. But
مثلا
don't
ببینید
worry.
اینجا الان قیمت
For
من
example, in
پیوت
here,
هفتگیم گیره،
the
این
price
میخوره
in
برمیگرده،
weekly
میخوره
pivot
برمیگرده.
is
این شکل باز بشه تا
going
آردو
back
راحت
and
میره.
forth.
این
But
دیروز
if
هم
it
تو این محدوده
breaks
ظاهر من
R2
بوده،
level, it's
محدوده
going to
که دیروز
go
هم
up.
اینجا داره. شما برای معامله خوب میتونید مثلا با استوب اینجا معرفی کنید.
You can put a buy stop right here.
شکسته شد حد
And
سودتون
when
تا
it
اینجا.
breaks, you
این حد
can
سودتون
put
اینجا،
a
تی
take
پی
profit in
دو
here.
هست، اینجا تی پی دو هست.
This is your first take profit, and this is your second take profit. Can we analyze the gold chart too, please? This is the gold chart. Right now, it has a sideways trend,
فعلا نمیتونید
so
حدس
we
بزنید.
can't
چرا که
analyze it now.
بین پیوت
because
برگشت
it's stuck
هفتگی و
between central
یک
weekly pivot
هفتگی
and the
دیگه.
first weekly pivot. Can you look at it from the daily time frame? Okay, so don't you have any suggestions? It's having an uptrend because it hasn't touched the top lines
بس رو
here based on the
پیوتاته.
pivots. Yes, we have uptrend based on the pivots.
ببین قیمت
You
طلای
see
شما
the
80%
gold
اینطوریه،
price is
1302
going to break this.
یعنی تو این محدوده ها
It has a
باید
possibility of 80%. So it's not
نه
gonna have a
تفاوت داره.
decline.
اسپرای
No,
طلا الان یه ریسک فوق العاده بالایی.
you shouldn't sell gold now. It's very high
مگر
risk.
اینکه بخواید توش اسکلپ بکنید. مثلا الان خورده تو این پیوت
But if
دیگه.
you want to scalp it,
اینجا فروش بزنین،
you can
بعد
do that. You
بهترتون رو
can
بزنین بالای این پیوت.
sell here and put a sell stop right here.
این معاملات دیگه ریسکی دیگه،
These are
اسکلپ میکنید
very
میرین
high
دوباره
risk
فروش میزنید یه دوباره مثلا
trades.
توی پیوت وسط میبندین میایین بیرون.
You can close the pivot in the central wall here and exit the market.
خب اینا همه
Okay,
باز
so
برمیگرده به
all
اینکه
of
ما
this goes
چون
back to the matter of
بلد نیستیم به
candlesticks and
جهت
the fact that
حرکت
we don't
بگیریم.
know about candlesticks yet.
بله دقیقا.
Yes, exactly.
حالا چون میگم سایده
Because
فعلا هیچ
the
کار
the
نمیتونیم
trend is
بکنیم.
sideways, you
مگر
can't
اینکه
do
مثلا تعریف
anything now.
بول فروش میتونیم بزنیم که همون چند
But
روز
you
پیش
can't
بود جلسه
do a
مصاحبه داشتیم
sell
راجع بهش
دقیقا
گفتم اگه
analysis.
تحلیل بول
دقیقا
بدید شما میتونید تعریف
دقیقا
بفرمایید. بذاریم ببینیم از کجا میشکنه. بالا بشکنه با خیال راحت میره
You
بالا،
can
پایین هم بشکنه میره
see
پایین.
where it breaks. If it breaks the top, it's going uptrend, and if it breaks the bottom, it's going downtrend. So you see this triangle that you have drawn here,
بله
if it breaks
بله
in here, does
بله
it count as a
بشکنه
breakout?
میره بالا،
Yes.
مطمئن باش.
If it breaks, it's going to have an uptrend.
اصلا مشخص هم دیگه روند
It's
دست پایین تغییر
obvious
کرد، یعنی پیوت
because it's
بالا باز
going
شده.
to
پیوت بالا شده. پایین هم گفت پیوت پایین باز
not
شده.
be a sideways trend anymore. It's going to go upward.
خیلی هیچ کار نباید بکنید توی محدوده
In this zone,
موضوع که
though,
ایجاد شده اصلا
you
نباید
shouldn't
کاری
do
بکنید،
anything
سایده دیگه.
because it's sideways trend. Thank you.
جناب
You're
صادقی
welcome.
شما متوجه شدین؟
Mr.
من
Sadeghi, did you understand? Yes.
که احتمالاً پیوت هفتگی تکمیلش نمی‌کنه پیوت
So in
آره.
the weekly trends,
خب
it
پیوت
should be
چند ماه
completed.
بود؟
Yes.
ببینید این
Okay,
محدوده
so
اگه
in
بره
this
بره
zone,
دیوار
if it
بالا طلا به شدت
breaks,
میره بالا.
the
یعنی
gold is
خرید
gonna
ریسکی
have a
میتونید داشته باشید.
very,
خریدم ریسکیه.
very aggressive
1302 و
upward
1303
movement.
رو راحت میزنیم اگه شکست
If
بشه.
it breaks, it's going to reach 1302 and
1314 رو ازش مد نظر گرفتم
1303
ولی
and
فعلا
maybe
مسیر
1315
1302 و
even.
1303 رو داریم.
But before that, we have 1302
دیواره
and
پایین هم باز
1303.
بشه راحت
And if it breaks
1281 و 1277 رو
the
راحت
the
میتونیم
bottom wall,
بالا
it's
ببریم
going
و
to
دیگه
break
کلا روندش تموم میشه. اسلاید به سمت
1283
پایین تا کجا؟ تا قیمت
and it's going to reach
آره
the
1260.
50 level,
پس احتمال بدیم از
1268.
کدوم سمت شده
So we have to
بله
know in which
بعد
movement it's going to have. It's
کندل
going to be
در واقع
upward or
کندل باید
downward.
یا
Yes.
سمت پایین یا سمت
And
بالا
the
بسته بشه
candlestick has to be
بله بله
completed
دقیقا.
احتمال
downward or upward.
بعضی اوقات پول بک رو میزنه
پول بک هم میزن ولی خب همین
Sometimes it
الان من
does
بهتون
even
میگم داره میره
pullbacks.
بالا.
Sometimes it does, but right now
متاسفانه
it's
متاسفم
ascending
که بالا میره. حالا من چون بازار رو زیاد دیدم
because I'm
اینو تو
very
ذهنم حفظم کردم.
familiar with the market. I've memorized
آدم باید
these,
خودش
and
حرکت
these
کنه.
are
ریزای
more
بالا
practical
بالا قرار
matters.
مثلا که شما
I have
حفظش
to
کنید. حالا به اون مطلب
teach you
میرسیم.
these
بذاریم
so you
فعلا
can
تو این
memorize them,
پله بریم بالا.
but I will teach you these later.
خب ببینید
Okay, you
ابزار
see,
پیوت هم من دقیقا بهتون گفت ماجیک
when
پیوت
we're
رو مثلا کنم پیوت ها رو.
using the pivot method, let me erase these first.
ابزار ماجیک
Okay,
پیوت
so
هم
when I'm using the
دقیقا مثل
magic pivot
پیوت
tool,
کاراییشه، یعنی هیچ فرقی
it's
نداره.
it's the
تفاوتش اینه
exact
که
same as the
پیوت
pivot.
مقاومت های
The
قوی و
difference is
مقاومت های
that
مشخص
the
میکنه.
pivot identifies the daily resistance and magic pivots identify your weekly resistances. You see, these in this scenario, the top lines haven't been touched yet, right? Yes. So in this, you should consider that your trend is going to be ascending, but only on the circumstances that the pivot is opened. You see, I'm repeating this. The pivot has to be opened first. And the third pivot, in 90% of the time, the third pivot is going to be broken on Fridays. And it doesn't matter both from the top and the bottom. But if the price is open and it's Wednesday, it's going to be broken on Friday. So if I had time tonight, I will have an online class and we can talk about this better. But right now you have a very powerful pivot in the way. And you have to put a buy stop here. But these are the zones that we take risks, and instead of one lot, we hit two lots. And when it's open, it's going to have an uptrend. And it happens on Fridays. And if you remember in the past, in the analyses that I would put in the group, I would tell them that the price is going to hit this point, and I would say that based on the pivots. You see, R1 and R2 and R3 are always broken on 9 or 10 p.m. And your R3 line is going to be hit on Fridays all the time. And if they're opened, the market will be very powerful. That it will be very strong, and there won't be any retracements. And when you see your R3 line or your weekly pivot, your third weekly pivot has been broken, you can buy because it's going to be very powerful, and it's the most powerful weekly pivot, and the pivots are very useful because they're very helpful. I'm working with them for 10 years.
استاد ببخشید اشتباه
Excuse
میکنم.
me,
هر موقع که
whenever we,
مثلا چون هر
for
شب
example,
این
every
پیوت ها
night,
آپدیت میشن
because the pivots are updated
در
every
طول
night,
روز هر موقع که قیمت
in
ما
the daytime, whenever the
پیوت
price
ها رو در مثلا قسمت پایین الان پیوت ها رو لمس کرده
touches the
وقتی
pivots, for example,
مثلا
in the
وقتی پایین
bottom
لمس
part of the
کرده
chart,
قیمت ما به سمت بالا داره میره چون
the trend is
پیوت
going
های
to
بالا رو
be
هنوز
up
لمس نکرده
upward
درسته
because it hasn't touched
و
the
برعکسش هم به همین
top
شکل
lines.
اگر
Is
از
that
بالا به
correct?
سمت پایین
Yes.
بیاد و پیوت های
And the
بالا رو
vice
لمس
versa is
بکنه
correct too
به منزله اینه که داره پله
if
پله
it
از بالا میاد به
touches the
پایین و
bottom
باید
lines,
بیایید
it means
با
that it's
کشش بازار رو ببینیم به
gradually
سمت نزول
moving
و
downward
اینجا الان کشش
and we're
بازار
having a
ما
descending trend. Yes.
آها
But you have to have circumstances. We don't have any
درست
ifs in the market. You can make errors in ifs, but you have to make circumstances for yourself. That on those circumstances, you will move to the
آفرین
next
دقیقا مثل
level.
این پیوت رو بشونه به اون یکی میره
For example, 2 times 4 is 8, right? But on the circumstances that we say that 2 times 4, but when we say 2 plus 4, that is 6. That equals 6. So when is it 8? When is the answer 8? on the circumstances that we say 2 times 4. So it's as simple as that. If you learn candlestick method and pivot method, these are the main strategies. And if you've learned them, the whole market will be very easy for you. And you can do the tradings very easily. I bet you, if the pivot on the top is open, you can buy. If the pivot on the bottom is touched, you can sell it. You can sell. If it breaks here and it didn't decline, I will give you $1,000. And if it didn't break here and it didn't go up and reach here, I will give you $1,000. Watch it. But on the circumstances that you will observe pivot by pivot, you see, this market wants your money. It says that you have to stock the market if you want to win in the market. You have to stock it and you don't rush into it. That is one of the negative points of us Iranian traders. And I don't know why is that. Maybe it's because dollar is more valuable for us. I don't know. But you have to stock the market. But I see so many people who rush into everything. You see, the market is waiting for you to make a small mistake. You can make a lot of money in the market, but only under circumstance that you comply with the rules of it. If you get greedy, you lose, and you will make a great loss. You see, this whole market only depends on candlestick and pivots. Only these two strategies. I'm not sure if you were present in the last session. I said there that candlestick rule is that every candlestick that is completed, it sends a signal. That is the rule. It has to do it. It will give you an ascending or descending signal. And it's always true. It's a rule.